All right, folks. Oh, look at this nice message of sportsmanship and bonding between our two players here, Jesse Day and Josh Sokol, coming to you in round three. Again, it's pretty amazing. We've had three matchups of this quality to start the stream in the Collins division, but that is a testament to how uniformly strong the competitors are here. And Sam, I'm excited for this matchup. It's going to be two incredibly creative players. And in the run up to coming back from break, we were talking about Jesse's clock management as something to look for in this game.
Yeah, Jesse. So, it's great to watch these players. I think I've played Evans many times over the years, but also Jesse. So, of the six players that we've seen, those are the two I'm most familiar with. Jesse was, Jess and I were both in the Northeast for a long time. Though he's now based in, I believe, Austin, Texas. But yeah, he's kind of, I guess, notorious, you could say, for being a slower player. So we were talking earlier about like some of the players from Nigeria play faster. I saw someone in the chat said the tournaments in Nigeria use 20-minute clocks, which I did not know. So that's an interesting tidbit. But Jesse is very similar to Pakorn, who Nebadar Mansuk, who was the world champion the first time I went to the World Championships in 2009. Both of them very known for taking a lot of time early in the game, really deliberating. It's an interesting strategy. I'm always baffled because the general thought is you want to leave yourself some time near the end because those end games can get really technical, really tricky. And so we'll see if Jesse follows this trend. We saw him, if you were watching at the end, well, I know you were, but for those in the chat, if you saw at the end of the game, after our game, the camera zoomed in on Jesse's game, and it seemed like he was at the very end, down to seconds on the clock, and it just seems like he's always down to seconds on the clock. So we'll see what he has here. I think an easy Buai. He's set it up immediately. Booai.
Yeah.
I don't know the origin of that word, maybe Maori or something. I'm not sure, but if you see it, it looks pretty good here because you're going to score 20 points and you're going to get rid of that vowel problem immediately.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for Jesse to move through some of these first few racks of the game quickly with this by far his strongest play, holding 5 vowels on his opening rack. He's able to use 4 of them in one move, which is just what the doctor ordered. And meanwhile, Josh with the exact same problem, maybe even worse, of 5 vowels, except with 2 U's on the rack. And wow, Jesse's rack has improved in a hurry over there with that first blank.
That's why it's so crucial, of course, as you know, to when you have the opportunity to play some of those vowel dumps, as we call them, and those are some of the first words that sort of a new up-and-coming player might learn. You might learn your 2 and 3 letter words. You might learn some 4 letter words rather, and you might learn some vowel dumps, short words that use 3 or 4 vowels. And if you can use he had 2 O's, he had 5 vowels out of his 7 letters, and now he's got, similar to Joel from last game, that early blank and a plethora of bingos after his, and I may have said it wrong. It is a New Zealand word. I don't know if it's buai or bue or what, but Josh had you cutie set up, but he's not going to play that. But a clever chat. Josh likes to engage with us via his rack, I guess.
Yes.
UQT with another E. I don't know if you caught that.
I did, yeah. So he's definitely no stranger to, and I kind of love the showmanship of that. Sometimes in Scrabble, we get a little laser focused on just playing the game to the highest of level that we can, but never hurts to have a little fun with it as well. I feel like Josh, one of the themes of his Scrabble style and Scrabble worldview is he's going to do the things that are are enjoyable for him to do. He's going to have some fun with it. He's not going to take himself that seriously, which is what makes him such a fun content creator. I put in the chat earlier that Josh is a YouTuber and streamer at the name Axer Typo, so definitely want to encourage folks to support him as well. I'll put the link once again to his YouTube channel. You can find his Twitch from there as well. But yeah, he's coming back around to a twee, Sam. I feel like either this or our favorite cry of Bacchic Frenzy, Uoi, through one of the O's, that second O of Buai. Not great options, but I think one of those is coming down here. I don't mind this from Josh.
You know, I don't mind it. I actually like Alex Seaholm's suggestion in the chat of our favorite cry of Bacchic Frenzy. Josh is scoring 11 with this, and he's keeping CUE, but he's opening up such a big spot with that I. I mean, if Joel had the X, sorry, not Joel. Yeah, I'm still thinking of last game. Jesse had the X, he would score really well. Not just the X, though. Plenty of tiles could score well there. I don't know. I guess this is fine. I mean, not that many tiles. Oh, the Q, of course. The Q. This would be a huge bailout.
Would you like it better if it was underneath?
Yes. I'm surprised. Actually, I'm very surprised though, then you could say you could play parallel above the AE and use that double letter score. So I don't know. I mean, maybe it's fine. Uoi kind of really, it feels like it kind of cuts the board, but I guess you can kind of play parallel. Like you could kind of play above or below that BOOAI play. So I don't know. I would have liked it below because there aren't too many like high pointers that can go right after an I in a 2-letter word, just like if. So yeah, now Jesse's going to he's got Resonor set up. Yes, it's pointed out in the chat. So he can play Resonor and a Tweeze, which kind of seems like,
this is
frankly almost an obvious play, except for he might not like what we were talking about with Riposted last game. You're sticking that E right next to that triple letter score, just where that E in Riposted was. And so maybe Josh has a Z or something. So the thing is,
so Resonor scoring 78 points right here is the most that he can get, but maybe he's considering an overlapping play, like something in this spot, like Repiner in this spot right here actually fits on the board.
Or just Resonor. It's also
Resonor as well. All of those. Yeah. Refiner, Resonor, Repiner all fit in this spot too. So I feel like I would rather play Resonor, not only because it scores 5 more points, but you're doing a lot to cripple this spot. For example, for a Q, that's going to be next to impossible. It's going to be impossible to play through an E with that letter right there. So you're doing a lot to obstruct the spot that Josh just created. So this is a classic Jesse situation where I think a lot of players would have hammered down Resonor right here, just reasoning that it scores the most points and does a few things that you like from a defensive standpoint. But Jesse is unbothered. He's just going to think things through. These early positions are where Jesse likes to really think about how the game could unfold in different ways. And maybe he thinks that an underlapping play for fewer points creates a better board for him long term.
It looks like he's going for it. We'll see. You're right. He is going for that underlap. It does feel like he's going with Risen. Why is he doing that, though? Because
it's even fewer points because you could avoid putting the blank underneath that square is actually a double letter score. So he's taking an even lower score to potentially make exactly the type of board that he wants. But maybe there was just some doubt in Resonor on his standpoint, from his point of view, I should say, because maybe he was thinking about Refiner and Repiner, but not Resonor there. So an interesting decision by Jesse. I think I would have just played for points there. But Sam, I find it hard to second guess Jesse too much.
I really like what you're saying. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a fine play and he's drawn a decent rack. But I like what you said about sort of the spacing of the different spots with Resner, because there's sort of this idea in Scrabble, it's not great to just have one spot after you play. So in this case, because Josh has already opened up that big spot with a tweet, Josh is going to have the first crack at it. Now we see he doesn't have anything great, but even with his sort of drecky letters, he can still play pew, and I might have said that word wrong, pew, and he can use the spot. Whereas if he had played Resner, it would have been kind of difficult to use both of those triple letter scores. It's possible, but more likely there were two spots, and Josh would have gotten first pick, but Jesse still would have had the other one, and they're both pretty good scoring spots. So I think, given that consideration, I kind of do agree with you. I would have wanted to take the points. Now, he is, like you're saying, he does think about the way that the board gets shaped, and this is sort of might make for a more defensive kind of, well, certainly he's taken out some of those letters and made it a little more difficult to play through them, because now you have to play through two letters and not just one. But anyway, we see Josh ditch some of his worst letters. He's got to get rid of that W. He's got to try to clear off his vowel problem. And he's improving his rack slowly.
He had those two U's on his rack when he played a twee, and then he drew another one. So he's doing his best to get through the vowels that he's been drawing. It looks like there's some light at the end of the tunnel for him here.
There was one more possibility that Alex Seaholm has noticed in the chat. Well, I assume this is a valid word. I should check it. Tinderier, because Tindery is a word.
Yeah.
So this would have played down for Jesse. Yes, right there, exactly. This is a valid word. In the Collins lexicon, Tindery does compare. And so that would have been another option for 77, with one fewer than Resner, but more than Jesse's choice of re-risen. But anyway, Jesse looks like he has the word vor set up, and I'm trying to see where on the board it goes.
He's thinking of Bevor.
Oh, Bevor. Oh,
there it is. So that's, I think, a great play by Jesse to undouble his R's and get that V off of his rack. I mean, the crazy thing is, by far, the best scoring spot on the board after Josh's play of PU was right here, a 6-letter word going into the triple. So clearly Jesse does not have a word like that, or else it would have played there and been a significantly better play. So that's something that Josh has to think about a little bit. I don't really know what I would do with that information once I got it, except, just file it away that maybe I'm lucky that he didn't have anything there. But for Josh, he now has to think, do I have a 6-letter word in this spot? Because if not, he too is going to struggle to score.
He does. He has 2. Yeah. Well, this will be an interesting test of Josh's Collins word knowledge.
Oh, yeah.
Because, one thing I wanted to say about Josh is, he's clearly an elite player when it comes to the NWL lexicon. He's been top rated, up there with Mac Meller at the number 1 spot. He won, like I said, multiple times now, he won the championship last year at the SPC. But he's only adopted Collins more recently, and he's still learning the words. I mean, I think, I saw him on the stream, I think at the SPC, and he was missing, maybe it was Albany, missing some of the relatively high probability bingos that are Collins. And he has found one of these, I believe this is a Collins only 6-letter word, which, you don't always study the 6-letter words. You might have known it from the 5, cauda, pluralizing to caudae. It has an anagram, which would be an improvement, which is cadeau, Cadeau. And he could play these with pick, hooking pi to make pick. So these are going to score very well. They're his best option. He doesn't have a bingo, like you said. Well, this is kind of the best spot to score. So we'll see if it kind of looks to me, based on he's very emotive, and it kind of looks to me like he is not sure that this is a valid word.
Yeah, maybe he's agonizing. Look at that. Look at that face.
Maybe he knows cauda, but he just doesn't know how it pluralizes, which is is fair. I think it might pluralize with an S as well. Now I'm going to check, as the chat points out. I'm not. Oh yeah, it only pluralizes with an E. As the chat points out, I'm trying to make sure I'm only saying valid words. Cadeau also only pluralizes with an X. So
yeah, that one's going to be tougher to know because as Scrabble players, we really deprioritize 6-letter words most of all. If you're playing that many letters, the odds are pretty good that you try to play 7 letters with a bingo instead, or 8 letters. And if you don't have a bingo, the odds of you playing fewer letters to keep those good bingo tiles together are also a little bit higher. So I think 6-letter words tend to get a little bit of short shrift in words that we learn, the fastest and are able to play the most seamlessly. So it takes a little extra energy to go that deep. And for that reason, caudai as an inflection of a 5-letter word, which Josh is likelier to know. Oh, and all right.
Sorry,
he had caudai there, and now he's switched it back. So I wonder if he's having a crisis of confidence in that word, which I think either. So if you're not going to see cadeau, that's fine. We don't. It's very difficult to know all the 6s, but caudai here for just 3 fewer points is definitely his really strongest option that I would expect him to play. And we know that he spelled those letters out. He's thinking it over.
Yeah, there's a really, for some of the viewers, if you're North American players and you're used to the double challenge penalty, you might not realize just how tough it is to play a phony in the Collins field where you only have a 5-point challenge rule. You're really, really disincentivized from trying a word you're not sure of, because your opponent should almost certainly challenge. A strong player like Jesse Day is not going to let you play a phony. And yeah, Josh is upset at himself. He knows that he probably had a word to the triple word. He knows that caudai, he looks like he's looking like he's thinking, gosh, I bet caudai is a word. But, if it's not, Jesse's going to call me on it and I'm going to lose my turn. And losing your turn it's a big deal. You score 0 points instead of, 20, 30, whatever, and improving your rack, right? Because he's improving his rack here. He's not scoring very much, by the way. He's scoring like 15 points or something. So yeah, obviously it's a big difference here. Cadeau would have been, a pretty chunky score. I think it would have been 40 points. So yeah, it's tough. This is the thing with Collins, right? Like there's a lot of new words. Like, that's a good quarter of the dictionary, third, whatever it is. And if you don't know, words like those, which yes, they're somewhat obscure, but they actually come up a lot because they're kind of vowel dumps. So anyway, it's I think it's the right decision to not play something you're really unsure of. It's tough. I find it I'd rather err on the side usually of caution. And so I can very much understand why he's erring on the side of caution when it comes to possibly losing your turn. And that which is just you don't want to lose your turn. You don't want to get no points and get stuck with the same letters and have your opponent know your letters. And so meanwhile, Jesse, he's got this nice lead and he's got a pretty good situation, honestly, especially after that play. And looks like he's looking at different sort of underlapping options. Like he could play Trawl here under Dwan. He looked like he had Wag set up under Dwan, or Dwan, however that word is said. What are you thinking, Will? I think you're muted.
Thank you very much. My attempt to shield you guys from my nose blows and coughs went awry there. But yes, Trawl, as I pointed out there on the board, seems like a reasonable idea for him. Keeping IG, maybe he gets lucky and draws an N. I just feel like it's, the sooner that one of the 2 players has a 6-letter word that they're confident in, Whenever that happens, we're going to see a word get played right here, which is going to create a couple possible lanes to play 8-letter words with. And if Jesse can draw an N here, maybe he gets an ing bingo through a word right there. Also, Trawl just scores about as well as he can get right here. So I like to play. It is worth noting that maybe if he wanted to keep that nice R tile, which is almost always a tile worth keeping on the rack when you have good bingo tiles. He could have played Twal in that same spot, TWAL, but I find it difficult to, quibble too much with this play. Nice job by Jesse.
Yeah, it's a good play. I did not notice that alternative of Twal. I do think that's a slight improvement. It was probably an oversight. My guess is he didn't notice that he could have played Twal. It's possible that he saw it and he chose not to play it. Josh is going to pretty quickly underlap. That seems logical. He's scoring pretty well there, actually. This is something for the players who maybe haven't played at a club or a tournament, for the viewers, I should say. I've noticed, it's these parallel plays that folks don't always notice. They can really add up. In this case, he played some obscure stuff. C is the phonetic spelling of the letter C, and nay is the Scottish word, I think. But he's also using some common words, and he's scoring pretty well. He scored 28, and he got rid of his triplicate E problem. He untriplicated it. So yeah. Meanwhile,
that was unquestionably his best play on that move. So while we know he saw Cauday and chickened out of it, rightly so. If you're not sure at all, as you were saying, Sam, it's really tough to go ahead, not just because it's a Collins word, but also because of the challenge rule that we use in this division is so much easier for the player to challenge your words, the opposing player, only giving you an extra 5 points if they're wrong and giving you a big fat 0 if you're right. So yeah, it makes sense, but the C was totally the right option for Josh there, scoring really well, leaving him great balance on his rack. And Jesse he drew the ends that we were hoping, but because the board is so shut down, it doesn't really matter. I mean, this is a classic example of a board that we would call a closed board. Jesse has a 7-letter word on his rack of feigning. But a hallmark of a board that's closed is even if you have a 7-letter word or great bingo tiles, there's no room for it to actually fit on the board. So this is very, very closed off, especially without an S. If a player had an S, all of a sudden more possibilities become available between the C's hook and the Trawl's hook. But without an S, things are really closed down, except for this spot for a 6-letter word, which neither player is drawing. Sam, it's kind of a sign of how tricky 6s can be sometimes.
Great point about the board shape. I saw a question, I think last week during the SPC stream about sort of, what are the players thinking about the board shape? So Jesse, and how specifically, how does it relate to the score? So Jesse's probably thinking, well, I'm up by 62 points and he's going to play and score more points. So he's happy. He's happy to have the board like this. I'd be looking at a play like Foin, Foin through Bivor. Just keep the board tight, get rid of my double I, get rid of my double N, that F isn't so helpful for bingos. I can use it to score on a double word. And, Josh, just sort of, we're waiting, sort of playing possum. And if you're winning, you're happy to play on a closed board, And the one thing I will note, though, is we still have those 4 S's, right? And I think you sort of pointed out, you've got Trawls, you got C's and other letters, of course, that can go in front of that EAS. There's also Bevors, or Bevor, however that word is pronounced. Bevor can take an S at the end. It's a noun. Pew can't, but it can take an M. There's 2 M's. So I think this board might open up a little bit eventually, or like you're saying, Will, with the 6-letter word out extending, hooking pi, going to that triple word. So this board, I think, will kind of spiral outward in a couple different ways eventually. It's not like total lockdown, but anyway, that's the first thing I see. It's obviously you're only scoring 14 points. It's not exactly like, woohoo, I scored 14 points,
exactly.
But I'm
but you continue to be up by a bingo on an extremely close board. I guess the only thing you're worried about if you're Jesse is because of those 4 unseen S's, it's a fair assumption that Josh might have one right now. So if I'm Jesse, I'm a little bit worried that I have this nice bingo leave, but then Josh will do something like play a bingo with trawls that doesn't give me any counterplay. So, wow, he's going to play fungi. He's going even more for the defensive option. He's blocking really effectively the only good scoring spot on the board. It's now way harder. Not only is it harder to actually play through this G most of the time, by placing a letter in that double word score square, you take the sting out of it quite a bit. Imagine if you just left that spot open and Josh played something with the Z there. It would be a 20-point tile multiplied by 3, but this G in the spot really takes the sting out of it. So that is a hyper defensive play by Jesse, Sam. I think it's a really good recognition of the board state right now.
I kind of agree. I like this. I mean, I like this. The one downside, well, there's a couple downsides. He didn't score very many points. He only scored 11 points. And his leave was a little less balanced because it kept 2 vowels and 1 consonant. Now, obviously, he got very unlucky. He drew 4 vowels. So that's, that's unlucky. So those are kind of the downsides of that play. But I think you said the upsides very well. The other thing is, even if Josh had a bingo with an S, he probably would have gotten some good counterplay. So if you're hooking trawls, let's say you're ending in, you make a 7-letter word down the board, you're hooking trawls for Josh, and then Jesse could play back on that triple on the rightmost column. Anyway, this is sort of a variation that hasn't even occurred. Josh didn't have an S, but Josh did score pretty well with a yod. Not only did he score pretty well, he kept AELT and
drew an S.
Yes, he did, which is going to help him a lot. And he's setting up that nigh hook NYE. And now Jesse, well, it's kind of backfired. I'm not, it might have been the right play. I mean, Foyne might, that was kind of the first thing that jumped to me, something like that. But, well, he's got a tough rack now. He's probably looking at his vowel dumps. Certainly he has a bunch of them available in the tiles on his rack. There are vowel dumping words, but gosh.
Yeah, where to play them, that's not incredibly reckless, right? So there we go. That's the answer, I guess. Airy for 5 points is Jesse's answer to where I'm going to dump all these vowels. I mean, technically, this does create sorry, they spun things, but it technically creates a gigantic F hook, which would be devastating if any player had a really good play with an F right now. But the other plays for Jesse would have been something like A-knee in this spot, A-N-I-E-E, something like this. You could play that there. You could play the same word here. Either way, those plays give a huge amount back to Josh, whereas Airy, the only way you get walloped too hard is if Josh has the F, which is not that likely after Yod. So, yeah, tricky. This is a really tactical battle, Sam. A lot for us to cut our teeth into.
This is like exactly the type of game that I associate these two players with. I think of them as, they're very, elite accomplishments. We haven't even mentioned, I don't think, Jesse, second place in a world championship. At least once, or maybe twice. Was it once or twice? Do you know?
I know that I know it was the once, and I know that same year he was the finalist at the King's Cup tournament, very prestigious. And I know in both of those, he had 2 incredibly well contested and exciting matchups with none other than Nigel Richards. He took Nigel Richards to a 7-game finals at the World Championship. I want to do a video about that at some point. It was that electrifying of a match. Jesse, no stranger to the big stage. He's won a huge number of really prestigious tournaments. So one of the stronger resumes of any U.S. player for sure.
Looks like Josh is getting ready to play waste, so he's going to score a lot here, and the S hook has very quickly kind of dwindled. That trawl hook really got obstructed. NY takes an E, another spelling of nigh, so the S can also go after NY, but it's not as big of a deal. So with 3 S's out, it's not a waste to use one and score a pretty good, a chunky score with those 5 overlaps. And Josh now has Josh lag on his rack, which he looks very confused about.
Yeah, we don't have a great view of the Josh leg, but we assure you they're under there. All right, nice play here by Jesse. This makes sense, getting rid of that ugly VU combination. And for the North American players out there, important to know that EAU actually does take an S in the lexicon they're using. So that greatly increases the strength of this play, setting up an S hook that would not normally be the case. But it makes it extra strong. But oh man, the ZX draw. Normally you're happy to see this, but not when you're holding bingo tiles and you really want to get that first bingo of the game down, Sam.
Yeah, well, he did have re-risen, but
oh, sorry.
Yeah. It has gotten so tactical, and they're like you were saying earlier. You pointed out there's nowhere really to play for a big score. There was just that one triple word score, and then Jesse blocked it with fungi. So he'll have to sort of work his way. I mean, maybe he can score pretty well with the Z. So the Z is so flexible, and when you have an S, you want to end. Well, Josh is going to keep scoring with his S's.
40 points for that play. I think it makes sense. It's no longer the same board state as it was early, where those good bingo leaves aren't that helpful. There now is a great place to bingo, ending in a whole bunch of suffixes. The S fits here, E, ER, ED, pretty much any bingo containing leave other than ING is going to play in that spot right here. So sorry for my poor arrows drawing, but still this play scoring 40 points is so much better than, for example, Josh could have played just Joe in this spot. His leave would have been marginal, would have been something like GHELS. That's not all that strong. So this play scoring way more points and giving him a narrow lead once I update those scores. I think it makes a lot of sense for him in this particular situation. So this is going to be crazy. Jesse's going to struggle. He's not going to have a good way to get rid of the X and Z on his rack. There still is this gargantuan F hook. If you can manage to find a play ending in F, which is difficult but not impossible. Second blank is lurking. Still a lot to be decided here, Sam.
Kind of reminds me of like an NWL game. I think more often in NWL, in the North American lexicon, we see these kind of tactical battles, one bingo. I mean, we're more than halfway through the game. Neither player has hit 200 points. Like it's back and forth. So anyway, it's going to be tough. Jesse's, he was off to such a good start and then kind of slowed down a little bit. Josh has managed to claw his way back just with these, basically these big overlapping plays using the S's. So I don't know what I would do here for Jesse. Man, I'd wish I had a little more time on my clock. Of course, he's already down under 8 minutes, as is, I would say predicted, but it's barely a prediction. I mean, it's kind of just like the way he plays. There's a lot of time, not only are there a lot of tiles left, but there's going to be a lot of turns left in this game because it's going to be tough to make long words just on this board unless you have a bingo, and it's going to be a lot of tight little plays. So I don't know. I want to use that. I want to turn it into zit, but of course that would
this spot is so appealing, but it's not really possible. There's only the B goes here, and that doesn't really help you to play across. Normally in this situation, it's appealing to potentially play either Tiz or Tix in this spot. But this wheat, in addition to taking an S, it also takes an E hook, which I expect Josh would know, even though his Collins knowledge is still on the new side from having recently converted. This is a really scary play for Jesse to make. I don't think he's going to feel himself to be in that dire of a situation. Oddly, I feel like potentially the way that Jesse's going to go here is either to drop off his X in that spot and wait for a better opportunity with his Z, or maybe he'll play just sits right here for 30 points, not opening anything back to Josh, scoring decently and hoping for a better opportunity with his X. Other chat also pointing out that maybe Zinc making the obscure C hook. And he is, oh my God,
Whoa.
look at this. He's gone totally off the deep end.
Oh my
The thing
God.
to know about this play is you can put an E hook here. So this is crazy. An E and a Y, but certainly the E is the more salient thing to worry about. Any bingo ending in ED, ER, any of those suffixes. And Josh does not have any hook to wean, and he doesn't have an E. So that creates a brutal, brutal situation. And Jesse draws the F and the second blank, but no vowels to go with it, Sam. I have no idea what's happening right now.
This is crazy. That was a crazy play. You know, in poker, they talk about a soul read. Like, oh, I could just tell that these were their cards, right? So maybe it's because this is a play that, you know, I would just really struggle to ever make because there's 3 E's left. You don't have one. You have to think, gosh, if Josh is an E, he's going to hammer the spot. And even without an E, he's going to shut it down, by the way. He's going to play dig, which kind of gives him a bit of a bailout.
He has to do that. He has to play dig. He has to honor Jesse's setup. He has to believe there's no way Jesse's playing Knicks without something really strong. In fact, it turns out what we know is that Jesse wasn't all that strong. He didn't even have he didn't have an E of his own. But Josh has to honor that possibility. He cannot simply allow Jesse to score an enormous amount there. So totally makes sense from Josh's POV. I like that choice to block off both of the hooks here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Jesse could have used his blank and played Zinks for a decent score. Now he's just going to play off, which seems fine. You know, the plays are going to start coming so fast. It's going to be tough to.
We're going to try to keep up. Yes, we're going to try.
I'll have to, chat. Let us know if they're missing things. But that seems like a good play. Yes, he has the fairy hook, but it is, I think a viewer might be wondering why isn't he keeping that F for that fairy? But it's very obviously. Well, the thing is, it's very tough to use that. You have to make a 5-letter word ending in F or a longer word to reach that triple word. So
and he had no vowels. Yeah. So he would have had to draw 2 vowels of the exact right composition for him to be able to play a word with fairy, and he can't really afford to be spending multiple turns thinking of fairy when he's just as likely to draw bingo right here, which is equally likely to be a game deciding play. So I do feel like it's a little painful to get rid of that F, but absolutely correct from Jesse's POV not to fixate on it overly much. And here comes Josh getting his J off of the rack here with major. This makes sense to me. I'm curious if, opening this scoring spot might be scary sometimes, but from Josh's POV, he's hoping for a 7-letter word right here, and he won't be that worried about a scoring spot parallel to major. So I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I agree. There's not too many letters.
Gomerel.
It doesn't.
It does fit. It does barely fit with all the overlaps right here. Gomerel, very, very obscure word on Josh's rack. He has Gollum set up. I'm sure that if he takes a moment to think this over, he'll see that he's got a bingo on his rack here. That is an NWL word, so it is one that Josh should be familiar with. Only question is how, if at all, is Jesse going to find a way to block it? I don't think there really is a way.
No, well, chat's mentioning Gonk, which would block it.
Oh,
I don't know
wow.
why he would play that. To me, it makes a little more sense. Well, I'm also seeing Zach in the
I
chat,
think
and
Zach is likelier from his
Zach,
POV. Yeah.
if he notices that, that seems like almost like an insta play. So
Kaz is also reasonable. I think that makes sense. He really almost only needs one vowel with his STNK. And here comes Gomeril. Wow, this is huge for Josh, but it does make massive overlap, Sam. He is far from out of the woods.
Yeah, and now he could still. Oh gosh, this is the problem with Cash as opposed to Zach. It's not a bad play, but you only have 2 tiles to draw, and you better It looks like Jesse might be holding this play because
Yeah.
Josh hasn't drawn his replacement tiles. And now he's going to. Looks like he's neutralizing the clock or maybe they're just rescoring it actually. With all those overlaps, got to make sure you score it correctly. Um, just as an aside, it's possible that players, have a score different than the score that we have, which is correct based on the computer scoring it. But yeah, Jesse left himself a little vulnerable to drawing 2 constants from the bag, and that's exactly what happened. So I guess he could play well, gosh, he's going to have options, isn't he?
Man, he would love to turn that K into a vowel right now,
Yeah.
right? Like had he played Zach instead of Cash right here, take that K and turn it into a vowel, and E, something like that, and A in that same spot, and all of a sudden, Jesse is scoring a huge amount. He could potentially even burn his blank, which he could do now, by the way. He could play something like Posey in this spot and score 62 points, which is essentially, that's a bingo score. That's why you have your blank, is to score 60 plus points. So that's a tempting option for him here. It would put him narrowly ahead, given that he's only down by a little bit more than 50 here. So it could be tempting for him to do that. But also more than tempting for him to keep it and try to bingo somewhere else. He also has Kai right here with the teak hook that scores extremely well and keeps the blank on his rack. So, it looks like he is going to challenge Gomeril, I'm assuming.
So that'll, I guess the lead will be 58 now.
Yeah, gives Josh an extra little bit there.
The thing is, there's really nowhere to bingo. So let's say Kai looks like, in the middle of the game, on an average game, you say, wow, I'm keeping this great lead and I'm scoring 37 points, but then Josh gets to use that triple word because that's an easy to use. A lot of letters go after GOR, a lot. The A goes after it, the E goes after it. If also Nye is a verb, NYE, so you can do Nide. So Josh can play
Josh has he has Hade right here if he wants it for 56. So if you leave that spot open, he's just going to hammer it. Sorry for my chicken scratch, everybody. Gotta worry about that. I think
you have to take that spot. There's just so many back hooks for Gore. Nye takes the D and the S, or he could play. Could he play down maybe SEA or something? So it just feels like you might want to take that rightmost column because it's so dangerous. Posey keeps that K. You could hook Teak next turn, I guess. It's not ideal. You're only going up a couple points. And so I don't know.
Look at Jesse's clock. Oh my God.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's at a minute. Wow. You look away for a couple minutes and this is like vintage Jesse with the clock.
Yeah. It's hard to imagine him not going overtime here.
Yeah. You got to just play something. And it looks like he's going to play Spunky. Or what is he lining up here?
Spunky would be right here. So he is playing Spunky. So this is, I don't know if this is the best way forward here. It's tempting because of his time situation of just wanting to burn through as many tiles as possible to get to the end of the game as fast as possible. But I do feel like leaving that spot open, I feel like Josh has his ADEH set up there. That is alphabetized, but I do also think he's likely to simply hit that down. The only thing from Josh's POV that he needs to think about is the Q, Sam. The Q is a little bit of a tricky tile here.
As soon as you say it, it winds itself up on Jesse's rack.
Yeah. But if Josh were to make a play and then draw the Q without an I to go with it, he could all of a sudden be in some trouble. Practically, though, Jesse doesn't have enough time to execute a really good Q stick, do you think?
The problem is, I think it's a good point about the Q. There's literally nowhere to play it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if he plays Hade, well, he's going up by a lot of points. So I do think, he will be able to execute a Q stick in the sense that Josh will literally have nowhere to play the Q. Right? Literally, if he plays Hade and draws the Q in one other tile, I don't see a single spot for it. But Jesse might not have enough time to accurately play all of his moves in such a fashion that he's really maximizing his points and overtaking the lead that Josh is about to take. Because if he plays Hade, he will take a sizable lead, which is why.
Also, look at Hade, and now look at how impossible. There's no scoring spots. Playing Hade right here closes off this top triple. It's going to be difficult to reopen. Maybe not impossible if you were to play like Ag. No, even that doesn't do it. There's no real way to get to this top triple after Josh plays Hade right here. So Josh also, if he played Hade and drew the Q, he would still have a bunch more letters that he could use to keep pace with Jesse's Q stick. Jesse would be trying to play off his tiles slowly. He would be trying to play one tile at a time to get the absolute maximum that he could. But Josh would also be able to use the same strategy with a lot more time on his clock. If Jesse were to try to do that, he would probably take a minute or two of overtime penalty. So all that to say, Josh probably can go ahead and play almost whatever he wants in this spot, realizing that if he draws the Q, he's probably still going to squeak out a win. We actually know that the Q is on Jesse's rack and he has absolutely nothing to worry about. In fact, we know he's going to draw ST from the bag, which is the best possible draw that he can have. But this is definitely what Josh is thinking about right now. Why would he not just plop something down here for a boatload of points, almost immediately winning the game on the spot? He's trying to think about that Q and how it can burn him.
Yeah, it's a weird situation because you worry about the Q, but then you kind of realize there's nothing you can do about it. It's like that he made the video about eating the Q. He might have to eat it, but it might be okay. Like in this case, he might not have a choice, really. I mean, he doesn't have an eye. And even if he did, there's just one spot for QI, which Jesse could block. So, it's this is a tough one, and it's funny, but I'm always amazed. I said this to you offline, but with Jesse, he's just his results are so elite. I think he even has a close to winning record against Nigel Richards over a large number of games relatively, but the way he really, the way he uses his time, it's kind of tough to watch, honestly, because then he gets so low on the clock and no one can make perfect decisions when you only have, a minute or for a few plays. It's impossible. Even that play with Spunky, I was thinking it might be tough to even see. There's a lot of possibilities because you could think the Y goes after Gore, but also the S goes after Gore and the P goes after Gore. So maybe you're looking at words that end in SP and you got to figure out what letter to make the blank. And I don't know, there's a lot of possibilities to iterate through. So maybe he saw Posey and passed it up. Maybe he just, you're kind of, at least when I play, when I get low on time, which I do, I just start to panic. And oh, wow, he has played one tile. I can't believe this.
What I wonder, is there any? I think that is an attempt to use as few tiles as possible. If the cue is still in the bag, Josh would now have a 50% chance of not drawing it compared to using multiple tiles.
You just muted yourself. Well, I think, but I'm
Sorry, thank you.
I'm kind of worried that he just threw the game with that.
Yeah, that's really surprising.
I don't know
On Josh's
why.
part.
I really don't like that play. It kind of looks like he just threw. Someone in the chat saying, sorry, maybe he wasn't sure of Nide. Maybe he didn't.
Oh,
sure
that could be. That could be.
I mean, sorry, throw. I'm using the word throw. It's just a slang term for like he kind of messed up. Like, not like actually like not like colluded. Like just yeah. I mean, this is going to make the end game really difficult.
It makes it tighter. It does make it tighter.
I mean, he's losing now. He might not win this game anymore.
I think he should be able to squeak it out, but he made it a lot tighter on himself. So I think he has his DA set up because he can get a good amount of points right here with Wasted and Dak. And Jesse cannot go out with his BARTS, which should give Josh the ability to play his H. In fact, he could, if he knows this obscure NWL word, he could follow up with Tholoi right here. That would be optimal, but I don't think it's necessary. Even anything like HOI is probably going to be enough. So Josh making things very, very tight on himself here. And allowing Jesse to get his cue off of his rack. But yeah, we're headed towards quite the scramble to the finish line here, Sam.
Yeah, and I mean, Josh, well, he found Doc. So that's probably going to do it based on based on your analysis. It also takes out, Jesse had a nice little scoring opportunity on that bottom. He could have played Boss, making Bai, Ha, and Arcos.
Oh, yeah.
He can still do it. He can make Abbas. Maybe it won't be enough, I guess. Well, Jesse will have to do something. They'll both have to play instantly. And Jesse's just instantly going to drop this and say, you better find your best play quickly.
So down it comes. I don't think Jesse has on this incredibly tight board. I don't think he has a way to use his T and his R here. So while he has a brief lead, will Josh see Tholoi into this I? I think there's a chance that he will. Even if he doesn't, he has options here that should get him to the finish line in this game. But man, this has been a crazy finish. I didn't see this coming down to this.
No, I was shocked to see Gore. I mean, it must have been that he just. It must be a Collins thing. I think that is a likely. To be honest, if he thought Nide was a word, it would be surprising. And the way he wasn't like shuffling his letters in a way that it didn't seem like he was looking at like different 4-letter plays. So yeah, this is a word Tholoi and Josh will win. The Arcos is not good in NWL. I think it's like the chat's asking. It's a musical direction in NWL, but I don't know what it means in Collins. But it does take an S in Collins. So yeah,
we definitely want to hear the player post-mortem here. So maybe we can cut to that.
I think I'm pretty unhappy with everything I did that game. That's okay.
I feel the same. I just fucking drew. That's all. What do you want from me? I don't know. Just Kada take an E.
Sorry?
Kada.
C-A-U-D-A.
To take an E.
Yes.
So
yeah, bad. I missed a big play when I played Spunky. If I play Posey, I keep the K from here. Probably have a good chance of going there. I'm just so rusty, man. Brutal.
I was so close to playing Kada. This is like so much worse.
Yeah. It's okay, man. We're both just trying to get better.
We're both rusty. So, I'm not allowed to be rusty. Okay. 396 to 372.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just much bad. Yeah, well, good for them. Eat some food.
We had a ridiculous game.
So a bunch of it. There's a lot of people who were thinking about Odia alongside Goneril instead of fishing off T.
Yeah, if I draw the Q, I lose. So why play 2?
I mean, that's kind of
I think I just
what the
win.
conversation is.
I'm pretty sure I just win. I mean, I don't even know if gourd is a word. G-O-R-D.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, with Nide and Gourd idea.
Right. Yeah, I wasn't sure if Nide. And also, I figured I just shouldn't even empty the back there.
If you see a winning sequence for yourself or a winning pathway,
Yeah, I mean, that might beat a Q stick. Like, that's so many points, but there's no time.
Yep.
Okay.
All right. Well,
It's
the
nice.
players are still
Yeah,
debriefing here, but maybe we'll cut back to the booth here as they finish up. That was crazy, Sam. I'm not sure. So Josh, you could hear he thought he was going to lose if he drew the Q. I think he probably is up by enough points after Hade, and the board is that closed that I think he's going to be able to pull it out, especially because Hade would have left O's, and I don't think Jesse would have been able to play in this spot very effectively. So Josh is immediately going to be able to plop down 1-0 for 14 points right there, and Jesse literally cannot do anything in that spot. So I think Josh will be able to go tile for tile with him in that end game. But either way, crazy finish to this game.
Yeah, I couldn't tell if Josh was. So you think Josh was saying, like, if he saw Hade and he was worried he would lose if he drew the Q?
Yeah, I think that's what he said.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think sort of the salient point is, it's even if he draws the Q, we sort of think he will win in like a theoretical end game. Like if we plug this into the strongest engine, that probably he'll still come out ahead. Because if you think just he's going up by 55 or 60 points, it's just gonna be hard for Jesse to outscore him by that much, even playing his tiles slowly. I mean, maybe, but it would have been tough. And even if there are cases where you can theoretically lose if he draws the Q and some other not great tile, Jesse had like 30 seconds. So it was kind of a wild game.
A good point of maybe Odia was better also because you save the H, and if you draw the R or the S, you get an easy play right here. So Josh would have left whatever, but there was an R and an S lurking, and we know he would have drawn the S, so he could have played Shays and Cash in addition to the O spot. So maybe Odia actually is better by keeping the H for that spot, which would have been fascinating.
It also would score like a lot less, right? Like it would score like, well, maybe not that much less. I would have to count it up.
It's not that much less. Yeah. So so Hade scores 56. Odia scores 47, which is still a pretty nice amount. So you're right. Maybe those extra points are helpful, but you do get a nice extra benefit in a lot of those end games. So
if you draw that's
wow.
Specifically RQ, I guess, or SQ.
Exactly.
But which is only a little, it's like 18th at the time. But it was a crazy game. It kind of reminded me a little of the last game of the SPC finals, the NWL, where they both got low on time and they started it was tough to find the right play and they just had to do their best with the time pressure.
Yeah.
Except for kind of like multiply. But wow. Yeah, that was an interesting one.
3 cool games to start the day. No surprise with the level of play that we're getting from the Collins division. But now the way things are going to work from the Word Cup is it's going to be 3 games in the morning and 4 games in the afternoon. So you can see the playing room has thinned out quite a bit because players have gone to lunch. So we're going to do the same. We're going to take a lunch break, and I believe we're going to be back in something